I come to this wall when people in social media comments are really bad at understanding stuff, and I have my instinct to help them, but I know they're not actually going to listen to me. So I'm better off using my energy wasting the time of people who already agree with me. Hi. In this case, I come from a BBC article entitled, but not that kind of entitled, Why People of Colour Are Misidentified So Often. And I recommend you read that and the perspectives of those whose engagement with racism is more on the direct experience receiving end rather than the meta-semantics of an immune pedant. It's really informative, and it discusses how we categorize people by such broad elements as what race we interpret them to be. And we do that so readily that we struggle to acknowledge their own distinctions. It's not just white people who do this, but you can understand that focus from a BBC article writing in English on the internet based on studies and experiences in Europe and North America, and with any understanding of power dynamics and international popular culture defaults. On Earth. This article is understandable on Earth. What it finds is really worth looking into, but not according to the comments. Because they say it's pushing a racist narrative by accusing things of racism. The agenda, as far as I can tell, being direct factual reporting. The BBC article doesn't use the word racist or racism even once. I don't mind doing so because of the racism it describes. But they've expressly avoided it to placate these kind of commenters. Because if we waste time arguing about the word racist, we get nowhere, which is what they want. And apparently we now get nowhere even if we play nice with racism defenders or deniers, because avoiding the word is not enough. Because they want to preserve the default against the modern narrative of accurate data. This article doesn't speculate like an agenda might. It just reports experiences and findings, agendalessly. That looks like an agenda when you're too used to the agenda of defensive ignorance. Is what's discussed in this article racist? Well, only if you go by what adjectives mean. I think people are upset because they can't delineate subconscious racial categorization from, shouting ethnic slurs at footballers. I understand what unconscious racism is. But if the term is alienating to defensively ignorant people who don't suffer from it, that's why the BBC sidestepped the reference for optics to avoid provocation, at which they've failed because people can be provoked by any old true information. It doesn't really matter if we call subconscious racial bias racism, but it sure shares a few properties with racism. It correlates with racism, and it decreases if you introduce measures against racism, and also it's racism. There were many saying, it's not racist, it's natural. As if those are mutually exclusive groups? I'm not sure there's anything in this realm that isn't ultimately natural, but this objection kind of shows that they do understand that racial discrimination happens, but they want to absolve it with an appeal to nature. Really, if this is nature, then it's not a part I care to defend, and if that makes me a bad conservationist, then fine. I ended up bitching with a commenter who compared the human distinction difficulties to telling antelopes apart. Which, I mean, you chose to bring comparing people of minority races to indistinguishable inhumans to the argument. I guess I admire the gall. I do see the logic here, it's pretty distant, but how only antelope scientists can really tell the individual antelope apart. But I think I asked for a 21st century society in which we don't have to be race scientists to recognize our colleagues. Maybe we can get there through understanding and confronting stuff like this. I appreciate this discussion, although the people you're calling antelopes might not. And let's carry on unpicking it rather than locking it away under accusations of being a biased narrative. I think if we keep investigating racial prejudices, then we'll understand how they arise. And we could even work against them. And that would be natural too. I argue in favor of the very natural concept of understanding. If you're against understanding, then I think I've done the racism the article describes a bit, from ignorance. My approach to my ignorance, when I notice it, is to fill it in with understanding. But another thing you could do is cling to it and deepen it. I think what's revealed in this article, to those of us who didn't already know from first-hand experience, is a very interesting thing, and we should be discussing this data. We shouldn't end up stuck on discussing whether or not we should acknowledge it. Haven't I already covered this in a Green Wall video? Yeah. But somehow there are still people who've not seen that one and accepted that I'm right about stuff. I'm not really here. I'm typing on the internet like I was avoiding doing in the first place. It may not look like it, but this is me ranting at my keyboard. Look. Paragraph break, percentage sign. Is that the whole emoji? Here I am reacting like social media wants me to. That drives up revenue. But I don't count as a reactionary because I'm reacting to the reactors. Also because that's not what reactionary means. Oops. That's a handy word for the opposition of progress, which looks a lot like the opposition of the divisive narrative of wokeness. Yeah, so divisive, because it really drives divisions in our society when we notice divisions in our society and work against them. I invite keyboard reactionaries to use their outrage against injustice and ignorance rather than against knowledge. There is a divisive narrative to avoid here, which is the natural racism that was discussed in the article in the first place. It's there, it divides us, and if we understand it, we can make there be less of it. That's the article. A second divisive narrative is when you describe mere data as an agenda and you oppose it. There weren't two sides to that until you made them up. It was just truth. If the agenda is when you choose to confront racism, then sure, yeah, that's my agenda. Well done. The contemporary use of the word woke does support a racist, divisive agenda, because the word is almost always used by people accusing the opposition of racist agendas of being woke, and they want to fortify the default racist agenda with which they're comfortable. It's only natural. That's why I agree with opposing woke when it's put in quotation marks. Down with the saying things you dislike are woke agenda. It's quotation Marxism. So categorizing people ain't cool. Race is a made-up thing, like gender or hope. But it's one in which we unconsciously believe. And thereby we made it natural. Its truly natural form isn't categories, but individual, unique DNA. I agree with the ideal a few commenters are reaching for, that we should work toward a society that doesn't discriminate by race. I just think we should base it on the understanding that we already deeply do. Now, go read that article, please. If you liked this video, please follow a more diverse array of creators.